anything to your people. Hi, how are you? I can see you. I can see everyone. For Lauren Shaw, welcome. Wumi, welcome. Akolade, welcome. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you are very welcome. My name is Chioma Moma. It's great to be here. It's great to be live. And parenting lessons, this is something we've been doing for some years now, where we want everyone to share their lessons, because every year there's something new to learn about our parenting journey, isn't there? There's something new we've discovered. There's something new that has impacted us. And I'm not doing this alone. I have four guests, but the fourth guest is in the village, which is having connectivity issues. So I'm going to add my guests one by one, allow them to do brief intros of themselves. And
Hello,
there's
Chum.
some in my background. I wonder why my children are making noise when they know I'm live. Olana and brother. I wonder why. Okay, yes. So four of us are here now, and I'm going to allow everyone to do a brief intro on who they are, and then I'll start asking the questions. So Akolade, yes.
Okay, hi. Hello, Choma. My name is Akbalado Okoro. I am the executive director of General Way and Andrew Azazi Foundation. It's a foundation that I run in memory of my father. We provide scholarships for underprivileged children in the Niger Delta. I'm the mother of two beautiful girls.
All right. Awesome. Great. Thank you for being here. Saw some funny things in my background. I was wondering what they were doing there. Nice to have you here. And just to say, Akolade is an old friend. Where we went to the same secondary school, and we're not friends in secondary school, actually. She was a year ahead of me, and I was just like, anyway, we now go to the same university, and we became tight buddies. We were both in Ife, and she's been a friend ever since. And then her dear father, who she set up this, who they set up this foundation in memory of, is one of those people who, in a way, Folorunshaw, Shaw, who is the next person I'll introduce himself, reminds me of your dad, Akolade, because he's such a hands-on father, has a great relationship with his children, and that's just what daddy was. That's who he was. He was very close to each and every one of his children, and had a great relationship with them, even with a busy career, in the armed forces. So nice to have you here, Akolade. She's
Thank
all the
you.
way in Canada, so it's great to have you here. Hope it's not snowing too hard.
Well, where I am is pretty good.
All right, awesome.
But
So next, Folorunshaw, please unmute your mic and do a small intro.
Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Folorunshaw Shaw Liu. My friends call me FLS. The choice is always yours. Uh, what else to say? I'm the husband of one wife, beautiful woman. Got three wonderful kids who keep me on my toes and make life worth the while. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Folorunshaw. Again, Folorunshaw is one of those amazing fathers. We were in Ife as well, but I actually connected with him as a neighbor in Abuja. And what struck me about him was how hands-on he is, such a present father, very busy career man, doing a whole lot of stuff, but a very, very connected and present father. He's just a great guy. Just glad to have him as a friend. Welcome, Folorunshaw. Welcome. And then the next person is Wumi. Go ahead and do your intro, Wumi.
Great. Hi everyone, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching from. So my name is Wumi Adelusi. I'm a financial sector specialist based in Abuja. I have three kids, two boys and a girl. Most of my career has spanned across regulatory space. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and talk about being a good parent or a better parent. Yeah.
Awesome. Be a good or a better parent. I love it. So my name is Chioma Moma. I'm sure a few of you here already know me. And even though this is live, one thing I did not do very well was publicize this. So you might be seeing this later. So go ahead and share it. If you're here live, you can go ahead and share the YouTube link to other people so they can join in case they have questions. But if you're watching this afterwards, feel free to leave your comments. I'll get back to them. And this thing is really very simple. There's no perfection in parenting. There's no perfect way to parent. There's no one size fits all scenario. There's no, I have it all figured out. And that's why every year we come and we sit down and we talk about it and say, what are some things we've learned? What are some things we've learned not to do? What are some things we've learned to do? What are some things we've learned from our children? What are the things we learned on our journey that have made our parenting easier or harder? And I want to just start with you, Wumi, because you have your kids are younger, you're a working mom, and for a lot of people, they keep on asking themselves, how can I make it work? I want to do well in my career. I also want to be able to be there for my children. So, given the ages of your children, what is one thing that you have learned that has really helped you navigate raising younger children, and also, in fact, you even did you even changed careers, changed jobs this year. What was it that helped you to navigate that as easily as possible?
Okay. So for perspective, I'll give the ages of my children. So I have soon to be 8-year-old. It will be 8 in March. I have a 6-year-old. Then I have 11 months next week. So the gap is quite wide. I think one of the things that has really helped me this year is actually asking the children themselves for help. So initially, when the baby was still much younger, like 3 months, 4 months, when they attempt to carry, I'm like, no, 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 don't touch her, don't carry her. But along the line, I realized that asking them for help was even making things easier for me. So I'll just, oh yeah, carry her, and then I'll show them how. So as opposed to just saying, don't carry her, I show them how to carry her. And then that, of course, made things easier for me so they can watch her while I quickly attend to something and then get back to her. So that was helpful. And I think that was an important lesson for me. Thanks to my mom, when she came around, she saw how I would say, no, 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 don't let them carry her. They don't have to carry her head, all those things. And she was like, you need to start asking them for the help. They can help you. So it was an important lesson that I had to learn this year. Leveraging them for help. I think the second thing that has worked for me this year is getting them involved. So also seeing them, they're not in their teens yet, but I think that they are the point where we can have like some conversations, right? And they can understand. So like when I was changing jobs, talking to them like, oh, this is happening now. I'm changing jobs. I'm moving from this place. And so it also helps them to understand that, okay, mommy is in a transition phase, and, they kind of can support me in their little ways, like their words. But because I felt like if I didn't bring them into the picture, they might just see that, oh, my movement probably changed. Now I'm working from home because my new employer, accommodates work from home. So they'll be wondering, okay, why is mommy saying she's working from home? But I mean, having done that explanation, that made it easier for everybody in my life to transition, to say, okay, yes, so there's a work from home part of mommy's life now. So I would say that getting them involved and also asking them for help, as funny as it sounds, yeah, those two stand out for me the most.
That's great, getting them involved. And I really love that you said that, because I think at times we don't realize how much our children understand. We think they're not watching or they don't understand things because they're young, but they are, and they can actually give you valuable insights. Because there was something I was doing recently with work, and I remember discussing with my, one of my children, and the insight he gave me was really, really valuable. So that's really good. So I want to go to Folorunse now, and I want to stay on what Wumi has raised on about, combining work with family. So with you as, a busy working father, FLS, how much of work do you involve your children in, or your own work? And how has it helped you navigate? Because like I know you, if you need to leave the office for anything, you will leave the office as when it involves your children. How have you been able to, what's the word? Would I say navigate or integrate that family life into your workspace and vice versa?
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So, thanks. So life is in stages, and it's always best to know what is important to you at different times of your life. Some people feel that career is the all important thing, which is okay if that is your choice. But I think it's important to prioritize what is important to you at different stages. So for me, it was very clear for me when we're about to start having kids or children that for me, first, my wife is always priority, irrespective, every time, all the time. My wife is number one, then my kids follow, then my career follows. Now, those priorities are the same every single time. Now, I'm not saying it is right or wrong, but it's just my priority. So, as at the time I was having children, I made sure that the work I was doing allowed me time with my children. There were jobs I got that would have paid me a lot more. Now, again, different things for different folks. So, like Choma said, there's no perfect solution. I don't think anyone has it all together. But I think it's always important from the beginning to set what is important to you. So, because my children are important to me, when they were much younger, I focused on the job that allowed me time with them, such that, and God, I mean, when they were growing up, when they were much younger, God was just absolutely marvelous in my life. It had raised me up to a point where I was, to a large extent, able to manage my time, such that everybody knew that my lunch period was my lunch period. I was able to fix meetings, you know. I had more flexibility in fixing my meetings. Let me put it that way. So when it was lunch period, everybody knew FLS had to go for lunch. Now my lunch period was back then was not really for eating. It was to go pick my kids from school, and I lived in Abuja. I left Lagos to move to Abuja. Again, it's about what is important to you. I was MD in Lagos. I left Lagos to run a project in Abuja. People were like, MD, why do you leave what do you call it, to come to Abuja? Now, again, priority was important to you. I left Lagos, came to Abuja, and my lunch period, I would go pick my kids from school because I realized that that was two times were important to my to me in the lives of my children. Going to school and coming back from school. Those two times were marvelous. They revealed a lot. In the morning, check their moods, check what they were going into, check what their day was going to start like. So you put them properly. You can prep them, you can give them motivational talks, you can help them get into the day. And then immediately after school, they were ready to chatter, to tell me everything that happened. So I learned quite a lot. I knew what to step into. I knew which friends they had. I knew who bullied, who didn't bully, and all that. And I was able to help them manage. Now, for me, for years, all through middle primary school till they were finishing secondary school, the first two, that was the life I chose. And hey, is it the best for everybody? Maybe not, but that's what's important to me. And then at night, when I come in, we get to talk a little bit, but I got most of the gist during the day. Then they grew much older, and I've gone to school. The first two been in the university. We talk as often as possible, and they know that I would ask questions. They know we would talk. If I get more involved in their schoolwork, because no matter what we discuss, I still read their textbooks, I still have discussion, we still do questions together. That's what's important to me. Now I'm in a different phase in life, and the phase I'm in right now is my children are all out of the house, so I have now fully focusing on career. I know it sounds funny, but I'm only focusing heavily on career, and it's worked for me. So again, it's about what is important. Now, I'm not saying I wasn't focusing on career, but I'm saying at the time when they were at home, I spent as much time around it. Now, not everybody had that opportunity, or has, sorry, that opportunity to spend as much time. And I don't think anybody should blame anyone for that. It's just let every man be fully persuaded of what is important to them. The world will tell you how slow you are or how stupid you are sometimes, but choose your path and be committed to it. At the end of the day, it's about what gives you joy from the depth of your heart. I'm not talking just happiness. I'm saying there's a place you get to where your heart is in sync with what God is telling you. And I think that's the most important thing. Every other thing doesn't really matter. So I'm sorry for taking your time.
No, it's okay, Folorunsho. So it's good to hear from you. So I love what you said about choosing your path. It's so important. And I like that you broke it down into different phases of your career because Folorunsho is a big boy. He's a big career guy. So, doing big. And he's, it's interesting because I have always, in my mind, he's always done well career-wise, so maybe he's putting more energy into it now, but since I've known, Folorunsho, he's been, up there, in terms of his career. But, I think of my own journey and the choices I have made career-wise. If I saw one of my bosses today, and he was like, this woman, you're a creative, you're too many things in your head. He was just saying that, you're still here, because he just thinks that, man, you have so much going on. And if you know how public services is kind of very structured. So for people like me who are bursting with energy and very creative, it could be ruffling your feathers a bit, or you could be ruffling people's feathers, but I chose that career path because of my young children. At that time, I just told myself, you know what? The public sector is the best place for me because I want to be able to close at a decent time and spend time with my children and spend time with family and really, really impacts on them. And so I gave, especially my oldest children, I know the time I spent with them. I could have gotten a career, gotten a job in then it was banks that were raining. I could have done that, but I was intentional about it, because of what I wanted to achieve with my family. And now that my children are getting older, I am getting a bit more braver and bolder in terms of in the type of career roles I am, I'm putting myself up for, because I'm like, you know what, now I have my kids are grown. I have one that has finished uni. I have one in uni, another one entering. Then my little one will just work things out together, me and that one. But it's just that you have to prioritize what is important to you at every point in time. And I'm going to go to Akolade now and ask you, because you're abroad with your children, and for a lot of people, especially in that part of the world, it's a two-edged sword in that I hear people complain, I don't have all the help I used to have at home. But I hear people also say, you know what? I get to spend more time with my children than I did when I was back home in Nigeria. What is the biggest thing you've learned, not just this year, but since you moved regarding your children, whether positive or otherwise? What thing have you really learned on, one lesson you've learned since you've had to be out of the country?
Okay, Choma, let me just start by saying thank you for inviting me to join this discussion, because it's helped me to unpack my year. It's helped me think about the things I've actually learned this year. And I would say that one of the major things is self-care. I sat back and I thought about the fact that when I was growing up, I thought of my mom and I thought my mom was angry a lot of times. And I didn't think too much about it, but that's just the way I put her in a box. But, as a mom who's lived in Nigeria and moved to Canada without any help and having to do so much more, it's helped me identify so many things. I think about my mother when she was, she had 4 kids and went to university with 4 kids. And that alone would have been an enormous amount of stress on her. So, I'm thinking about myself, thinking about my mom and everything, and realizing that, she was going through so much, having to deal with the home, having to deal with marriage, having to deal with, so many other things. My house was like a hub. There were so many cousins, friends, tons of people coming through my home. So, of course, she was trying to manage all of that, making sure that everybody was fine. And all I saw was my mom is always angry. But having to deal with so much more in terms of having to manage the home, doing school runs. There's so many other things, there's so many dynamics to moving here, not having all the extra help. I've now realized that, look, what she was going through was so much, so for me, it's I've now had to step back and identify the tools that I need to use to help me just, relax. So I found that at one point I was really shouting. And I was I don't want to be this shouting mom. So I said, okay, what are the tools that I need to step back, refuel, so that I can come back and make my home a happy home, a calm home. So I identified some tools. One of the tools that I identified was I like to shop. Now, the thing about shopping is that I never really sat back to think about it. It was more like, this is guilty for me. And so going forward, I never used to do it because I'm like, this is guilty. But when I was able to sit back to identify that this is something I like, what I started doing was like, okay, let me manage this thing. Even if it's just to go out, go and buy that little lip gloss and come back, I've been able to just unwind. And I found that was able to make me just breathe and be happy. So I would say that one of the major things is self-care, identifying the tools. I listened to a live session, I can't remember who it was, and the lady was saying that for her, what she identified was that she has this aunt that she actually loves. And when she's feeling stressed, just being in her aunt's presence is enough to just relax. So when she leaves, when she's feeling like, this is too much for me to manage, she goes to her aunt, spends time, and when she's leaving, she's like, she can breathe and say, you know what, now I'm refueled, I'm recharged, I can go and be the mom that I need to be. So I think self-care is one of the major things, and for different people, will be different things. It's not about what I'm doing and what the other person is doing. What are the things you can identify to make you just, step back? And the second thing is the second lesson this year. So my daughter is going to university, and for the past 1 year, all I've been thinking about is, have I done enough? Have I equipped her enough? Is she going to eat when she goes? Is she going to pray? And at the end of everything, I have enough gray hairs just staring at me. But what is key is that, last month, I had to sit back and I realized that, look, this girl is actually thriving. She's on the honors roll in school. And recently, 2 weeks ago, I got a call from her principal telling me that she's receiving an award next year for her contribution to the community. And I'm like, this is me that has been worrying for 1 whole year. So the lesson from that is that God fills the gaps, And for me to see her thriving, it's just a reminder that, look, it's not about perfect parenting. It's about doing your best and then handing over the rest to God and say, you know what, I have to trust you and let go. So those are the 2 major lessons I've learned, being in Canada, and also the one for my older daughter, her going to school and knowing that, look, God is in control. He's got her back. He's covered. He's covering her. Those are the major lessons.
I love it. I love it so much, because the truth is that, I tell people so much about, how we, these days, you're putting CCTV everywhere. There's nothing wrong with those things are good. But I keep on saying, at the end of the day, it's God that watches over these children. And we need to realize that. And another thing that, you said that made me, ask myself this question: are you doing your best? Many times we know we're not doing our best as parents. We know we can do better. So we need to try. Even in the workplace, sometimes we know we're underperforming. As everybody thinks we're doing well. Don't get me wrong. People think, Wumi is a superstar. But that I'm not even doing anything. As in, if I start here. So even with our parenting, you know when you know that, you know what, Chioma, I can actually do more. And if you are doing your best, clap for yourself. There's no perfection. I keep on saying that. And, that's one thing I always want to reiterate. But you're trying. And even if you are not doing your absolute best, but you are trying, you need to also give yourself a clap on the back and say, you know what, at least I'm trying. Because, we see all sorts, when we talk about parenting, we see all sorts of situations. And the most important thing is that that you are doing what you can for those children, and you have handed them over to God to say, look, you know what, God, they're your children. At the end of the day, you gave them to me. I'm handing them over to you. Please help. I think that's so important. Thank you for sharing that, Akolade. And I'm going to come back to Wumi, because given the ages of your children, I think it's very important. A lot of parents, this is something that, especially this time of the year, house helps are going for Christmas, and some might come back, some might not come back, some don't have houses, whatever that scenario is in your house. How do you handle getting help at home? You've spoken about how your older children, how now you encourage them to help, especially with the baby. But what are some other things that you've put in place? What have you learned, or what have you noticed, or what has helped you in terms of the support you get at home as a working mother?
So I've learned so much from FLS and Akolade here. Thank you so much for sharing your insightful wisdom and experiences. I could relate with effortless in the sense of when I was at the CBN, my lunch was actually for school runs. Like I enjoyed it because it would give me time to catch up, and then I could afford to close past 4, so I could afford to then close like 5-ish. So I could really relate with that. Now let me just jump quickly to your question. I think being able to kind of make, so I don't want perfection. I'm at the point where I will not allow perfection be the enemy of good. So one of my mates now, for example, I have one that goes and comes, and then the other one, and that was on purpose because often I've realized during festive period, maybe I'm left alone and the work can be much, and then you become that angry mother that is always shouting. And so at some point I had to then look for that structure of, okay, having someone that is not resident but at least can come like 2-3 times helps. And so now that the one that stays with me and assists with major of the domestic chores is going, that other one can fill in, and she can come 3 times, and that's decent because I mean the 2 boys are not babies. Essentially, they can clean up after themselves, they can do a few things themselves, so that helps. So being able to also come to a compromise. And I think as I've grown older, I have more wisdom, so I'm able to kind of, this is how I want this thing to be cleaned, my perfect way. I've kind of made that compromise that, okay, she'll do it to the best of her ability. I can teach again until she gets it. So that also helps me to keep my sanity. So having that compromise at the back of my mind. And another thing is, if I can get leave, so what I've tried to do is also to structure my leave towards the festive period. So work leave, I fix it where I know that I don't have as much hands as I would normally have during the year. So that helps me to, okay, then I know that I'm handling this in the morning, I'm doing that, there's no help. And then during the day when the other lady comes, at least she can then help to tidy up a few things that I haven't been able to do. So that also helps. Getting leaves around, work leave around this time has been helpful. Another thing that has been helpful is actually asking my husband for support. So I think that somewhere in my head, when we travel, yes, he's hands-on and all of that, because obviously it's just both of us and the kids. But somehow, once we are coming from the Abuja airport, there's just the I don't know how to put it that you just feel like, okay, now I'm back to my house, and then at least we have a domestic support. But when they are out, I've learned to actually ask and not assume, but you should know now. So I would be angry thinking, he should know. And then he is feeling like, okay, I'm back to my base where at least we have support. So I actually ask. I know some school of thought feel like, why should I ask? They are both our children. But I think just asking, it's also a way of honoring my husband to say, you know what, I know that you're busy and you're trying to sort out a lot of things as, you're the head of family and all of that. But please, I'll need your help with this. Please carry baby while I quickly do this. Please. So it has helped a lot. Before, I'll just be moody and I'll keep quiet thinking, but he has eyes now. Can't he see that? But I've matured and I've learned to ask to say, babe, please help me with this. I need to do this. Watch this for me. Or please help me. It just makes it easy. And I think that also that asking even brings us to talk more about like other things. So it's like you're doing an activity together. Right. So sometimes maybe I'm dressing the bed or something. I'm like, help me get that. And, in the process, you find out, we are chatting and all of that. So it doesn't essentially feel like a chore to both of us. It's just like, we are catching up and all of that. So yeah, those will be my 3: making compromise with with domestic staff, and also asking for support from my spouse.
Thank you so much for that answer. And thank you. I'm just seeing all the guests, the Koroyes. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. And if anyone else, if you can send the link to your people. Someone was saying, Ebere said she can't see the whole space. I hope you can see my face now. I have a cold, so that's part of my whole issue today. In fact, I think Wumi heard me yesterday. I was like, okay, God will help me. And I shall be here. So I really like that. And, earlier this year, I spoke to somebody about the learned helplessness that men have, because, and really it's not their fault, to be honest. It's really what, it is what it is. Upbringing or whatever. And like you said, at times we just need to ask them to help. We need to ask them. They still cannot see me. That's really interesting. I don't know why people cannot see me, but you can see everybody else, Abby. Don't worry, as long as you can hear my voice, we're good. I'm wondering why you cannot see my face. That's really weird. But anyway, I'm here, Sha. I'm here. So it's interesting, just saying that, just asking, because you have that assumption, and I'll say a short story about me and my husband with our youngest. So I said, oh, honey, help, just give him a bath or whatever. He said, no, it's not my job. I don't bath. I don't give anybody a bath. And I was like, I said, what do you mean? I said, okay, I went to housewife mode. No more going to work for me. Let me just stay here and be enjoying you. And it was interesting because, we had a discussion, and the next morning, without even missing anything, he gave him a bath. So at times we do have to have these discussions. We do have to address certain issues and say, this is what I wish you would do X, Y, Z. Not in a confrontational way. You just said that I watched a video about, this lady, the way she was talking to her husband, and I was like, I know men will like this video, but it's true. People who doesn't like to be honored and respected and spoken to nicely, especially our men. So we can help them. We can help them by actually asking, because they've grown up being told that, look, they're around babies, live here. It's only women that are here. Go and buy this. Don't be here, and all of that. So they've grown up being told that they can't, or maybe they're carrying the baby and they say, oh, you're not carrying the baby well, leave. So you have to actually help them by asking and encouraging them when they do get it right. And I'm happy that I'm talking to Folorunsho next, because he's one father, like I said, he inspires me a lot, because especially in our society, and I'm talking about Nigeria particularly, there is a lot of that where the men are not part of the parenting. They're almost like sponsors, so they come, they pay school fees, they check in, they check out. And you see women, working women or not working women, busy women or not busy women, they are doing so much for the children, and the children gravitate almost 98% towards the mother. And then fast forward, time for Mugu or whatever, the children are paying all the attention to the mom, and the man is getting envious. What happened to me? How come I've been slaving for you, doing all, spending, working hard for you? And the answer is, I didn't know you. We didn't have that connection. You were not there. You didn't hold my hand. You never picked me up. You never attended that school play. So I want to talk about that for Folorunsho. And also, like I said, give me specifics, especially in this year. Now you've transited. I remember then it was primary school that you were dealing with. Now you're dealing with kids in university and secondary school. I think you have one in secondary school still. Tell me some lessons you've learned regarding how the father can play his role effectively in that scenario, because that's something that a lot of men are missing out on in terms of them not being around or being present. I was talking to my husband again about something today. I said, oh, I'm sure your father did that for you. He said, no, it was always his mom that did it. I was like, oh, really? I thought that was something dads always did, So let's talk about that a bit. Share your experiences. Give us a few examples about how you've been able to play that your role as a father, as a present father to your children. Thank you.
Thank you once again. I mean, I'm sure you saw me nodding when Madam Mumi was speaking, and also Madam Kolade. I hope I got that right, because we were hitting very serious points. I hope we have a few minutes. Let me try and unpack some things. Number one, whatever it is I say, I don't believe in universal laws as much, because there will always be an exception to whatever it is you say, but there are patterns you can see. So I'm speaking generally on patterns. So if it doesn't apply to a particular man, it's okay. But there are patterns I've seen. Number one, if a man truly loves you, he just wants to make you happy. Generally, a man who loves his wife looks for a few things. He just wants to make his wife happy. That is what makes him happy. If almost like he doesn't have his own happiness, except the woman he loves is happy. So they always learn you. They learn you. So the man you have over time is a man you have created. If a man feels what he's doing is making you happy or is good to you, he will continue to do it. Number two, most men, again, not all, we are natural problem solvers. So what that means is I would spend my time only on what I think is valuable. What is not valuable, I don't spend time with. And how do I know what is valuable? Whatever makes my wife happy, whatever she appreciates, or whatever she verbally. In fact, sometimes men are doing things and they say, when I see the visage of my wife, she doesn't look happy. Okay, so that means she doesn't like it. Now, the woman may like it, but because I think that she doesn't like it, I will back away from such. And that is why it's important for women to verbalize the things that you appreciate or what you think should be repeated. Number three, most men I know are creatures of habits. If I do one, because we don't spend so much time thinking, even when we try, we don't do as well to think through like women would naturally do. We want to just solve problems and move on to other things, apart from work and all that. So a man will go to work 9 to 5, and when he comes back from work, he continues. Why? Because he thinks that by doing so much hard work and bringing money home, his wife is happy. He is a provider. So he spends a lot more time in that, trying to be the best he can be at work and move up. Right? So he spends time doing that because at least that is one thing I know she appreciates. When I give her money, I see smile on her face. So I'm doing something that is appreciated. So he learns to spend so much time at work and all that. And we're not also too good at doing too many things. We solve one problem, we are good, we see, okay, this works for you, and we try to keep doing it. And we try to learn what makes you happy and what doesn't make you happy. But guess what? The more of the things we do that we think you don't appreciate, the less of it we do, and after a while we cut off, looking for something else. So if you don't ask for help, right, he thinks you've got it. Let me solve another problem. But when you ask for it the first time, he feels, I thought you handled it all the while. Why do you need me? So there will be resistance because he thinks, why do you need me? You've been resolving the problem. I'm not required. I'm not needed. But when you need me, I will step up. So like Madam Wumi said, if you ask, make it such a way that they know you need help. They will try. They may make a mess of it because probably they've not done it before. Don't talk them down or don't talk us down. And don't make us feel like we're useless. Because once we think we're useless once, twice, we won't try it again. We don't like to feel useless. We like to feel we are doing something meaningful. But if we are doing rubbish and you keep helping us to, or you keep encouraging us, believe me, we'll get better at it, especially when we see you are happy with what we are doing. Very few men, except they don't love the woman anymore or something, but if a man still loves his wife, he will do anything, especially when you show it is important to you. The first time they resist because they don't think, what's the big deal? But you make it clear that, you know what, this is important to me. Not by shouting, not by screaming, but by letting them know, hey, this is very important. After a while, they will come to give it a try. But a lot of women I've seen miss out on that cue and instead maybe get into verbal, contestation, or get into nagging, or get into anger, or go into moodiness. Those things will make the man unhappy, but they don't know what you're talking about anyway, because they've forgotten. So I think it's important to do that. So I'm saying that by way of what I have learned this year. For me, what I've learned this year is one, and it's also the base of most of the things I talk about. I'm sure Choma has heard me say this. I've known for a while that parenting is never about the children, it's about me. Really, that's the way I look at it. God wants me to be a better person. Because the truth is, these kids are God's children. He only gave them in my custody to teach me how to be a better child to him as my father. That is the basis of what I consider as being a parent. Because imagine the amount of grief I give God by the way I live my life. When I consider and I see what my kids do, I know that before they do one or two things, I'm always screaming. The next time I'm asking God is, God has told me not to do this thing, but I sin. I go back to him and ask him for forgiveness. I sin. I go back to him and he keeps forgiving me over and over again. Then why am I screaming at a child that has just done it 2 times, 3 times? Now that doesn't mean I condone it, but it helps me say, how does God deal with this? Okay, God, what would you want me to learn from this? So for me, Raising kids is more about getting instruction from the real father who has made me a caretaker. And number one thing is in my relationship with God, one of the things God wants is spend more time with me, which is why for me, spending time with my kids is not because when I say spend time, it doesn't mean what's the word now? It doesn't mean I talk a lot or I give them everything. It just be present. In God's relationship with me, God says, be present with me. So that's what I learned from that. Be present. It's in when you are present that discussions would happen. It's when you are sometimes out of nowhere, your kids will just say some things and to hit you that there's something much deeper here. But if you're not even there physically, there's a problem. When I say physically, you could be working remotely somewhere, but you are there. They know it's important to you. You have time out with them. So I'm not saying it must be don't go to work and sit down with them and all that. No, that's not what it means. It just means they know they can count on you. They know when there's something, you are there. And if something happens, you're not able to come to be there with them physically, they know that they are in your heart and they have a pride of place there. It's the same thing with God. God has us in our hearts. We are inscribed on his heart. So that's one thing for me. It is not about the children really, ultimately. It's about me. It's about how much of a child am I to God? What kind of a child am I to God? I'm learning from what my kids are doing. I say, God, sometimes I just go and say, God, I'm sorry. Because I want to do something I like, if God were to give you a slap like you want to do, what happened? Because you've done worse. Number two is for me to know that, you see, these kids have a direction that God wants to move them. But if I'm not sitting at the feet of God to hear what he has to say, I'll be pouring myself into them. And by the way, I can, as a human being, at best, I'm toxic on my own. But if I get instruction from heaven to say, hey, this is what I want your kids to do, it does two things for me. One, I know that I am getting instruction from their owner. But more importantly, my relationship with my God is even getting better. So that's the second thing for me. It's not about them. It's actually about me and what kind of a child am I to God. What kind of relationship am I building with him? And in that process, I also realized that I take my place as a father, as a head of a home. Head of a home is not somebody who shouts at everybody or who is that people are afraid to stay about. The head of a home is somebody who gives instruction, right? To say we are going this way. But as a human being, I'm fallible. But if I get instruction from my own head, who is my God, right? Then I know whatever I'm saying, even if I don't understand it, we're all going in the right direction. Why? I am a representative of my father in my home. So I know that as a man, people say I'm the head of the family, right? But there's a head of our home who gives me instruction, and I get my legitimacy as a husband from. So whatever it is I say is the word of a king, not because it is my word, but because it's the word of the king at home, and everybody respects it. So I don't go saying, you must do this, I am in charge. No, because the truth, at best, I'm a representative. But you know what? I represent a powerful God. So when I speak, my words carry weight, not because they are mine. In fact, specifically because they are not my words, but because they are words of a king, they carry weight. So when I say things at home, people listen, because when we've not listened, we've all been in trouble at some point or the other. And I can tell them, I heard this. 2016, I got an instruction concerning something about my home from God when I was praying. 2024 was when I realized what God was telling me in 2016. And everybody around me understood it. I didn't have to tell anybody what God was saying in 2016, that I declared what God was telling me about my home in 2016. 2024, everybody understood it. So I didn't have to scramble. So when I see something tomorrow in my home, I don't need to tell my kids, oh, this is the whatever, because they know. So my job is to stay at the feet of my own father, representing my home as a priest. And when I stay as a priest at the altar of God for my home, then it makes me a prophet whose word is powerful in his home. And when you are truly a prophet at home, then you are treated as a king without having to try. So my greatest power is sitting at the feet of my own father as a child, so that he makes me as a priest, so that he makes me a prophet whose words is important at home. And that's why my wife will respect me. I have no fears that my wife respects me. I have no doubt my wife respects me. You know why? Because it's not my word and I don't have to shout. When we first got married, but after a while, I stay at the feet of my own father because I'm first a child. When he gives me a word and I speak as a prophet and you see the things happen, then you treat me like a king. Why? I represent the king. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so profound and so deep. And when you know your place as a prophet over the home, it just makes everything easy. The order and all that just flows. You see why I like Folorunsho so much. In fact, he's just a correct guy, good husband, fantastic father, great friend, and we keep learning, and we ask God for grace to help us to implement the things that we learn in this parenting journey. And there was something that he said, that he spoke about being present. And I speak about that. If you know me very well, my children don't really do boarding house. But like I tell people, I'm not really against boarding. My issue is that I'm against the spirit some parents have. It's almost like I want to dump my child. Let them help me, I beg, so I can rest. And I don't like that. For me, have the right purpose towards where you're sending your child into a boarding school, not because I had that thing, people let me rest, let me look for boarding for my child so I can rest. I'm like, rest from what? Why are you a parent? I like the fact that I said that parenting is not about the child as much as it's about you as well. So I say that a little. Even if your child is in boarding house, you can still be very present. Even if your child is far away from you, you can still be very present, extremely present. And there's sometimes recently I have a child in the US, I have children here with me at home, and there's some things they tell me. I'm just grateful that I have been able to create that platform of presentness, that they're able to tell me those things. And I'm able to now advise them and say, oh, no, do this. Oh, yes, do this. Because if they did not tell me, or if I did not make myself available, either via phone or whatever, then they won't tell me. And I won't be able to advise or impact them henceforth. So it's important that we're present as parents. And like I said, presence does not really have to be about your location, because I dare say that there are a lot of parents that they're in the same house with their children, but there's no connection, there's no fellowship, there's little or no relationship. Everybody is just to your tent, or Israel. But when your children, they can talk to you, they can come to you. Sometimes they're talking to you on your phone. It happens to me, and I thought, okay, you know what? Put this phone down and actually listen to this child. They're talking, they're saying something. They need a response from you. They need to know that you actually care, and that you will give them good advice. They need to know that if they call mom at 1 a.m. or call dad at whatever time, daddy will listen. Daddy will have sound counsel. Daddy will pray with them. They need to know they can say, "Mom, please pray with me," and you will pray with them at that time. So it's not really just about the location. Is about that, and about knowing your authority as a child of God, knowing what you have in Christ. So those things are also such such profound things you have shared with us, Folorunsho. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go away from you. I want to just talk to the people who are live. Please go ahead and share this to other people. And remember, why I do it on YouTube is that it's always there. So it's not going to go away. They can watch it tomorrow, next tomorrow, whenever. But it's really for us to reflect on the year 2024 in our parenting journey. And I'm going to come back to Apola. We're going to round up very soon. I'm going to come back to Apola. This is our last round of comments, whatever we need to say, whatever we want to say about our journey, and I'm going to come back to Apola. There's something you said. I remember that because I knew your parents, so I can relate to when I know your mom, and it's interesting. I remember my mom when we growing up, she would come back from work and she would lock herself in the room. Once she came back, and I was like, what kind of wahala is this one? Somebody that has not been home since, you just entered the room and lock. Nobody should come near my room. I was like, what's going on here? And then she would come out after a few hours, and then she would be so nice and so warm, and we could talk to her. And I realized later on that she was stressed from work. That was what it was. And she knew that if she spoke to us at that point, she just could not handle whatever, And with 6 children, you can just imagine 6 children, nieces, nephews, her help, everybody in the house. She just needed to just go and distress, and then come out and attend to us and be her best. So, putting that in perspective, now you have 2 children, and one of them is, how old is she? I think she's 6. How old is he?
She's 6, going on 7.
Exactly. So 6 going on 7, and then you have a teenager. So having those, that gap, having a little one who will want mommy's attention, wants everything that always wants to be around you, wants to be, your tail if possible. How have you been able to deal with that? What is one thing you've done to make her feel secure when she's with you, when she's not with you? How have you been able to help her know that, look, mommy is here, don't worry, I'm not running away. Because with younger children, they tend to have that thing where they feel that once you leave the door, that's the end. What have you been able to do to give her that comfort as a mom? And also with your older child, what are some things that you've done with her to help her know that, look, mommy is still here. Yes, you've grown up. Yes, you're a big girl, but you still need me, and I still need to be in your life. Just, give us some insight into that. And then any other final words you want to say, you can say at this time as well.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because that was something that was a big challenge. So I think about 2 years ago, a friend of mine called me and said to me that your older daughter thinks that you hate her and you only love your younger daughter. And so that, for me, it was like I was taken aback. Like, how can she be talking? Like, if I was very upset, what do you mean? But I had to step back and, if she's saying something, there's something there. I need to think of what has been said and what am I going to do to address it. At that point, my friend said, take her out and speak to her. But I thought, that's not me. That's not what I want to do. What am I going to do about it? So for my younger daughter, it's been very easy because, she's always with me. We play, we joke, we do everything together. So there's never really been a time that she's afraid, I'm not there. I'm always with her. So it hasn't really been an issue with my younger daughter. But for my older daughter, what I've done is I've been intentional about drawing her in. One thing I've done is also, because of the gap, it's about 10 years. It's like they're from two different worlds. So there's really nothing that merges them. So what I've done is okay, I've noticed that there's nothing that merges them, and I've not tried to force it. What I've done is that I bring them together. Just before this, what I did was I got a puzzle, and I'm like, okay, you guys do the puzzle together. Of course, they complained and they made a lot of comments about it. But what I noticed was at some point they started putting it together. Okay, you do this, you do that. And what I noticed was they were talking. Okay, at the end of the day, they were like, mommy, we're done. But they spent about an hour trying to figure it out. So I found that actually bonds, makes them bond. It gets them closer. Another thing we do, and my husband is really good at that, is that sometimes we're on the bed and we call everybody. It's like, okay, let's talk. Let everybody say what their day was like. And there's no judgment. There's nothing. It's like, be as open as you want to be. And I also have things where it's like three of us are together. I'm like, let's just dance. Let's just do something crazy. We hug ourselves. So I find that I have to be very intentional about the things that I do with them, activities that draw them together. And also, I speak to my daughter now. I said, because like I said, at some point I was really getting very angry and everything. It's like, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts about this? Do you think that I'm closer to my younger one? Her name is Ari. Am I closer to her? What do you think? And then sometimes she's able to unpack things in her own head, because she's very she can keep her emotions to herself. And I know, because I'm that sort of person, what it can do is it just makes you an ugly version of yourself. So because I've identified that in me, and I want to pull out those emotions, let's talk about them. And I found out that this year it's a happier space. We're talking more. We're giving of ourselves more to each other. So those are the things. I've just been very intentional about creating activities that they can do together, and also talking about those things that seemingly seem hard to talk about, and then also making sure that everybody's talking to each other.
I really like that. You're trying to bring them closer and trying to bring the whole family unit closer, intentionally, and then also listening, because at times you make assumptions and you needed to hear it to even know that she had that thought even going on in her mind, as in you would never have thought that was something she was thinking about. And I'm just happy that we're able to address things when they come up, and not because what happens, especially in Nigeria today. Recently, I had a session in church where children were encouraged to bring up their issues with their parents. It was anonymous. So some children wrote things like, "Oh, daddy, you just wake up and start pressing your phone. You don't even talk to anybody. You don't talk to us. We ask you for things. They're not important. But when it's your own thing, you take care of it immediately. We do this. Your sibling rivalry, for instance. You only care about my younger ones. You don't care about me. I get a B, I get punished. Someone gets a C, nothing happens." And when we brought these things up in church, most of the parents were extremely defensive. They were like, well, I have to press my phone early in the morning because I'm trying to work hard to make money. So, it's not they there's no sibling rivalry. Your sibling has some challenges, so I have to pay more attention to them. All sorts of. And I was like, are we even hearing our children, or are we just quick to come up with the excuses of, oh, this is why, that is why, this is in fact, what are you saying? Because the truth is that the more you don't listen, the less they talk, and not that the less they talk at all, but the less that they talk to you. They might be talking to somebody else, and it might be the wrong person. They just won't be talking to you because those emotions are not going away. So thank God for wisdom. Thank God, for being able to handle that, the way you were able to handle it. And I'm going to come back to Wunmi. Final words, anything you want to say, especially to moms with young children. What are your words of wisdom when they're navigating career, motherhood, wifehood, whatever it is, friendshiphood? How can we make it work? How can we forge forward? Let me use that. How can we forge forward while raising our children, while, achieving our career dream? What are the things that have been able to help you? What have you learned in 2024 and even the years past that have helped you on this journey?
Alrighty, thank you so much. I've learned a lot being on this call. I feel like, I should even be part of the audience. But yeah, it's a privilege to actually be in the midst of great company. Thank you so much, Auntie. So around things I've learned, one of the things that stood out for me this year was actually presence, and you've spoken to that. FLS has spoken to that so much. I remember that. My first son had a presentation at school. It was like a competition, and so we had practice, we were studying together and all of that. And then the final round was like, oh, will I be able to come? I was like, I'll think about it. I have some meetings in the morning, And Daddy's like, oh, I have to go to site, so who is going to go? And we're like, okay, we'll figure it out. And so I got to his school. We left the house. He left the house in the morning, saw him off to school. Daddy dropped him off and all of that. And then while the competition, so they were already in their class. So we sat in the auditorium, and then they brought them in to start off. And he saw me and he screamed. Like, everybody turned, literally like, okay, didn't you see your mom in the house? Like, what's going on? And I got teary. And I think that image has stuck with me all through since it happened. For me, it was like, okay, it's not just about we practice together in the house and I know you'll be fine. I appreciate that you took out the time. He didn't say it like that, but I mean, when people turn, in fact, I felt a bit of, I don't want to say embarrassment, but having everybody now stare at you like, okay, what's going on? This woman did not sleep in a house, so what, So that for me, helped me to actually understand that beyond the presence I can give, beyond the accolades I can give in the house, beyond we practice together in the house, there are moments they actually want us to be present, like physically present. And it is important to them. And I think also understanding that the kids are not the same. So my second son, he's the one that, I go and pick him up from school. He will look at my outfit. Mommy, I like your dress. Oh, the color suits you. But he would not have reacted the way his brother reacted when he saw me. Like, oh, good stuff. In fact, there was one I went for his class and he saw me and he just waved. But that didn't mean that, he doesn't care that I'm there, but also understanding their unique strength and their needs. So not compare. So I know that, this person actually needs me in this area, and I would show up like that the way they want me to show up for them in that area. So I've learned that this year. I've also learned, involving them. I think having a baby now and I could relate to what Akolade said earlier, because the gap between myself and my only sibling is 9 years. So we were at different eras growing up, and I felt like, oh yes, my parents loved my brother. I mean, he came to relieve them of all their, and me, I'm just the go to boarding house and all of that. But that is also a lesson I've learned with the baby now that, there's a bit of gap between her and her brother. So I'm involving them to say, oh, let's do things together. Okay, sing for her, do this with her. Oh, okay, do you want to choose her outfit today? So as little as that, to just get them involved, that, oh, you are part of us. It's not just, everything is not just about your sister. In fact, at some point they said, oh, everything now is about I doing this, I doing that. I'm like, no, it's not like that, having that conversation. And I think the freedom they had to even bring that up was something that I liked, that, oh, you could actually talk about it, that, oh, you are feeling like the attention is shifting. And I had to explain that, oh, when you were the baby too, we gave you all of these things and all of that. So actually having a conversation with them, getting them involved, has really been helpful for me this year. And also another part will be the spiritual part around, so not being too shy or to pray in front of them, right? So sometimes I feel like, oh, I want to go and do something. What is that something I'm going to do? Oh, I'm going to pray, guys. Do you want to join me, or you stay outside? Something like, so that's also the part of getting them involved. So I'm not just saying, oh, I'm doing something, or like when I had the Forge Forward Women Conference, I had to tell them, like, okay, I think you understand them. And then my first one was like, oh, okay, let me invite people. I'll do a video for you. So he said, okay, do a recording. And, he talked about, oh, you should attend my mom's event. So I think that has been a strong lesson for me this year, get involved and explaining things to them in the best way possible. And they've actually been understanding, to my surprise, more than I thought. Yeah. So I think that will be it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being here. Wumi is my aburo, whom I'm well pleased. She's doing amazing things in the financial sector. Gifted author. She has a community called the Millennial Employee, and you should be following her. She organized that conference. I was privileged to be one of the speakers this year, one of the panelists, and it was an amazing thing that she was doing. Well done, Wumi. Really proud of you always. And one thing that Wumi said that is so important, understanding our children's personalities as well. So what excites one child might not excite the other. What one child, doing one child expresses something, not the same way other child will express it. Doesn't mean that they both, like the other day, my first two children, I think FLS knows them more than anyone here. Chiemele is quite quiet and reserved. Nonso is more outgoing and sociable. So Nonso is the one that will put, you see him with me on Instagram taking pictures. He likes to take pictures. He's more, Mele keeps to himself. It doesn't mean that Mele does not like me around him, but he's not that, he doesn't express that way. He's just a more reserved person. Like, I beg him to send me pictures. I'm like, please now, send me pictures. Let me see. He'll just send me a picture of, oh, it's snowing. He'll send me a picture of snow. If it was nonsense, he'll send me a picture of himself in the snow. But I've come to appreciate that these are two different people, and you need to know how to relate to each one as they are, not to compare, not to say this person is X, but they are different. And you need to understand that your children have different personalities, they're different people. And which is why it's important. Rather than growing up, I would always say, oh, I want to have X number of children. So I understood what raising children meant. That, look, you're dealing with 4 different nations, 4 different individuals with different needs and different desires. So you need to be present for each and every one of them. And I like the fact that you spoke about explaining things to them, praying with them. I love when I pray, with my children. I pray about something and my children see it happen. They're like, oh, mommy, that thing we prayed about, God has answered that prayer. That is just amazing to me. And it's such a privilege to be able to introduce that to my children. Let's listen them be part of what I do. I discuss a lot with them. And one thing I see that it has helped is that they discuss a lot with me. They're not afraid to discuss with me. Thank you, Fukazi. Thank you for being here. And as we round up, I want to just allow FLS have the final words as we round up on 2024 lessons for the year. Don't worry, we'll be back here again 2025 by the grace of God to talk about what we've learned in the year. We always have programs. I have a lot of stuff online, on Seller, on YouTube, a lot of relatable content for parents. I do a lot of coaching for working parents. So you will always, if you're following my feed, you would see the stuff I'm doing. Thank you for joining me today. Akwalade, it's been great to have you. But before I do all my farewell, let me allow FLS. FLS, please, your final words so we can round up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Choma. I would first like to say thank you for the invite to be in this august setting with very wonderful people. It's a privilege for me, and I've learned a lot as well that I would like to put to use. Thank you for that privilege. I really appreciate it. It's good to meet new people. It's always great to meet new people who share similar principles in life. And, the world tells us one thing. They tell us the evil things happening and how things are not working. But what my belief is, God wants us to be a beacon and to say whose report we choose to believe. So for me, I'm glad to hear the report of others. So when I think it was Elijah, if I'm not wrong, who was running away and said, God, only me. And God said, who are you? I have 700 more prophets. Who are you? I beg, you're not that important. That kind of thing. So it's to say that the report of the Lord is still very important, that is raising men and women to raise the next generation of warriors who would, speak at the gates with the enemies. And we need to understand that this is not about us, it's a kingdom thing. I can't say that enough. I hope I'm not sounding preachy, but the reality is what it is. This is not about you. It's not about us. Those children that we call ours are actually gifts of the Most High God. He entrusted us with them so that they can speak with the enemies at the gate. Now, they cannot speak if we stifle their voices. They cannot speak well if we have not showed them how to speak. They cannot speak if all we do is shout them down. You can't create a cat at home and release a lion in the outside. No, a cat at home will be a cat outside. So we are meant to create lions who would roar and the enemy would quake at the gate. And the only way to do that is not when we are downloading our scripts onto these kids. The only way we do that is when we are downloading the scripts of heaven into them. Now, as a man, I speak for men. You know, our families are very important to us, but we've all learned to express this importance in different ways. Fortunately or unfortunately, we are a creature of our experiences, of our backgrounds, of our education, and of our what do you call it now? Of our exposure. And more importantly, I would like to beg the women, especially the women, you create more of the man of the future than you know. Your sons would forever love you, but they would respect their fathers. Now, you do more things out of love than out of respect. So if you create a sissy in the future, your son's wife will probably end up wishing you had done a better job. But if you create warriors who can defend, but knows that his strength is not of himself, for the next generation, your children's wife, especially the boys, will praise God because of you. I'm saying you have more powers over creating the next generation, maybe even more than your husbands. But more importantly, find out what makes your husband tick in a way that it will be present at home with you as a laborer, as it were. Every man I know, even the ones we've given up on, is still a beacon that God wants to use. And I think that in our homes, if we ask God first what He wants us to do, He will give us direction, both for our husband and our children. I believe very strongly that this is not even about us. I'm sorry, about the children. It's really about us. What are we? Your children listen more to what you do than what you say. And more often than not, they mirror what you do. In fact, the things you do speak much louder than your voice. So if we learn to know that this is more about us, then we live out the way the kids find easier to model rather than telling them to do. If what you are saying to them is not mirroring what we are supposed to do, something as simple as you are late to work and you are driving on the one way, say whatever, they will model it. If you speak anyhow to people, say whatever, you will see them modeling it. You can pray in the morning, and as you get out, you lie. They will model the lie. So it is more about us, really, in this relationship than about the children. and the kids are very good at absorbing the negative even more than the positive. It is in the positive that we reinforce. In the negative, they don't need any help. They will absorb. And that's why we need to spend as much time understanding the instruction of heaven for their lives, but through us and by way of what we model. Again, we are all work in progress, and I believe God will help all of us to, lead them forward, understanding that these are kingdom warriors, these are kingdom champions that have been given and entrusted to us, but would only be successful by modeling what needs to be done, so that when they grow up and they are giving account to God on our behalf, really, they'll be able to say, thank you for giving me my parents. Thank you. Again, I apologize if I sound preachy, but that's what came from my heart very, very clearly. And I'm sorry if it sounds like very religious, but forgive me. Thank you.
Thank you, Folorunsho. Please, no apologies needed. It's been so impactful hearing from you. You said it as it is. And I think for me, it's a great way to end and to just say with children, it is a matter of do as I do, don't do as I say. I've had my son call me out. Mommy, you said we should not do this, but look at you, you're doing the same thing. And I was like, okay, really? You need to walk the talk. You need to live the talk. What are those things you want your child to do? What are those things how do you, if your child was looking at you, would you be proud of what they are seeing? Are you giving them a good view of what to see, of what to replicate? And I keep on saying, my child, look, I want you to be I want you to be way better than I am or whatever I claim to be. From glory to glory is the whole idea. You want to give birth and see your seed surpass you. And one way of doing that is by living the way you ought to, saying the things you ought to, walking the way you ought to walk, and just making just doing what you ought to do as a mom, as a dad. Because the truth is that you cannot, being a parent is a high calling. You cannot. It's not life. If you want your life to remain the same because you have children, I want to be staying out at night. I want to be it's not realistic. You're called to a life of you have people who are following you, who you're guiding. You have people, I always say that, parenting is like having, it's a bridge and you have those guardrails. You're the guardrails to somebody and they are watching you and you're guiding them, across life journey. Even when they get older, I was with a parent and his adult son today. He was just saying that my dad is still a very important part of my life. He's like, you're still a parenting consultant, so to speak. So you cannot afford to live life recklessly. You must live life on purpose and you must live a life that is dedicated to a cause. And that causes you. Project Chioma, Project Abolade, Project Folorunsho, Project Wunmi. What are you doing to make sure you're the best version of you? As you do those things, your children are watching, your children are learning from you. How are you helping your spouse, whether it's your husband or your wife? And this is a wake-up call for us women. How are you talking to your husband when you want him to help? Are you shouting? Are you asking and saying, honey, please, I actually need help with this. Can you do this or whatever? He wants to please you. It's the truth. Most men want to make their wives happy. That is just the honest truth. I've seen it over and over. I've been married for how many years? So I see it. Most men want to make their wives happy. Are you being present? Are you showing up for your children? No matter how busy you are, those things matter. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Abolade. Thank you so much for answering and accepting to be on this call. Thank you, Wunmi. Thank you for being here. Folorunsho, thank you so much. It's been such a great time with all of you. And thank you for everyone who has joined us online. Like I said, this is on YouTube. You can keep on sharing the link.
Sorry, for butting in, yes? Please. You gave us all opportunities to say our parting shot, but you haven't given Abolade, if I'm not wrong, to... Forgive me, please. I would like to hear you. I don't know.
Okay, Abolade is going to end this call. And in fact, she has to end it because her family members are plenty on this live call. So she's going to end it and say thank you for all her people for coming to join us live. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So take it away, Abolade.
So to be honest with you, Mr. Folorunsho, I was wondering myself, but thank you for giving me the floor. So I would like to say that this has been really, really insightful. I loved the fact that we heard strongly from a man here. A lot of times we hear women's voices, and it seems as if women's voices are louder than the men's voices. But I loved all the things you said. I love how intentional you are there's one key thing that I picked up today about being a child of God and getting information from God to now direct your family. I think that was beautiful. What Wumi said about asking for help. You know, as women, a lot of women, because you speak to others, a lot of women would say, complain about their husbands not doing things. And when you're actually asking, you come from a place where you've kept it for so long that when you're asking, it's no longer asking, but more like, just do it. And so the response you're getting from your husband is like, I'm not your son, I'm not your staff. So, you know, it was good to actually hear those things where it's like, ask from a place where you're whole, where you're not upset. And it's, I mean, and then another thing that Trauma said is that husbands actually, and Mr. Florentia also said it, husbands want to make their wives happy. So if you're coming from that place, you know that it's not like a battlefield or anything. Because sometimes for me, I say that to myself, like, why is he not doing it? Can't he see? But it's like, you know, hearing this today was really insightful, was impactful, and it was actually lovely to have everyone, like, you know, speak and to be a part of this.
It's you that's going to say bye-bye, Akwalade.
What am I saying bye? Oh, and so I didn't realize, sorry. Shoma, a lot of my people are here. I'm so happy that you guys came on. Thank you so much. And also for all the comments as well. Thank you, and yeah, bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for coming. Good night. Bye-bye. Have a Merry Christmas and a wonderful 2025.
Merry Christmas.
Compliments of the seasons and Happy New Year.
All right.
Happy New Year too.
Thank you. So catch it on YouTube and see you guys in the new year. All right. Bye-bye. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.